I'm Coree.
And I'm Chloe.
And this is our
60-second sermon.
So when we're kids, we learn about stories in the Bible of righteous men, and one of the first ones that we learn about is
Jonah.
Jonah, yes. And Jonah was a righteous man, and he wanted to do as God asked, and so God asked him to go
To Nineveh.
only after he'd asked Jonah to go to Nineveh. Jonah must have gotten discouraged or upset or thought that this mission was impossible, and instead of going to Nineveh, where did he go?
He went as far away as possible.
He went as far away as possible. He got on a ship to sail away. And while he was on the boat, God had gotten angry because he changed his course and he decided not to do what God had asked. And he sent a storm, and all the sailors were throwing cargo over and trying to save the boat. And they look over at Jonah, and what's Jonah doing?
He's sleeping.
He's sleeping, yep. And so they wake him up and they say that God is angry at him, and what should they do? And Jonah says, well, throw me overboard. And so they do that, and the water is calm again, but instead of drowning, what happened to Jonah?
He got swallowed by the belly of the whale.
He got swallowed into the belly of a whale. Yes, God still had a plan for Jonah to go and do what he had asked, so he saves him by swallowing him with the fish. And how long was he in the fish?
3 days.
3 days, and what was he doing while he was in the belly of the whale?
Praying for this 3 days.
He was praying, yes, and he was asking God for forgiveness and that he was going to do what God had asked him to do. So the whale then, 3 days later, does what?
The whale, he spits him out.
He spits him out, and he goes to land, and he travels to Nineveh. Yes, and when Jonah's there, he tells them about the wrath of God that's coming if they don't turn from. What kind of people were they?
Wicked.
They were wicked and sinful. And so they did as Jonah had said, and sure enough, God had compassion on those people. And see, when we are kids, we learn the first part of this story is that God asks us to go do things, and we try to run and hide from God, and essentially we go into the world and we're asleep. And we come back and we realize how far away we've gotten from God, and that God still has a plan, and he makes a way for us to get to that end. And the second part that we learn as we get older is the compassion that God had for those sinful people, and that although we are Christians, we sin daily, and that there's others who are living in the world and they're sinning, and that God has compassion for them, for in that instant that they ask God for forgiveness, he is there for them. And sometimes as Christian, we harshly judge others who are sinning openly, and it's actually our mission to bring those to Christ and to God, and we need to love others as God has asked us to love them. Is that right? Right. So we learn two things. One, we learn to have our hearts and minds open for the will of God, what he's asked us to do. And second, to be compassionate and loving for our neighbors and to bring others to Christ. So what has God asked you to do? Where has he asked you to go? And who has he put into your life to bring him into his fold?
Hey, Caden. What? Hey, Mom.
What?
Happy Mother's Day.
Aw. Ah, thank you.